is they will have a lecture from now up till around 8 o'clock. Supposed to end at 8 o'clock. We can add 5 minutes if there is a need for adding 5 minutes. And then from 8 to 9 there will be the dinner. And then from 9 to 10:30, Brother Hamza Yusuf will be here and he will talk about the concept of Islam, Iman and Ihsan part 2. Tomorrow's program will be as follows. The first lecture will be fundamentals of understanding Islam. And then we'll have fundamentals or essential keys to the correct understanding of Sunnah. And then we'll have Ibadah and its effect on the life of the Muslim. Ibadah and its effect, we'll have Imam Dawood from Detroit here. If Dr. Jamal Badawi is supposed to be by 11:30 here. I talked to him so that he participate in this one. And Imam Siraj Wahaj is under the impression that he's supposed to give this one. And we'll keep him under this impression. Though it was a mistake, but this is, I guess, the best mistake they did in the printing it. So we'll keep this mistake as is and we'll let him, inshallah, participate in that lecture. And then the last one is titled Restructuring the Muslim Family, Solving Husband-Wife Dispute. For those who were not here, I would kindly ask you to help me do 2 things. Number 1 is to give me your input. Give me some of the things you don't want to say in public about your dispute with your husband or the men with their wives. Give it to me in writing and don't sign it. And inshallah will help us get input and discuss the reality of the people who are attending. Number 2, I would kindly ask everybody who attended this conference, first CIII-MAYA annual conference, to give us an evaluation about their critique review of this conference that we did. What's good about it, what did they not like, and things they liked, things they didn't like, and give us an evaluation so that we can make our job better next year, inshallah. And now I let Brother Ahmed Amru introduce the lecture and the Imam. Thank you very much. Salam alaikum. By the way, we have the tapes of these lectures will be available, inshallah. Some of them are available here and we'll make them available. Dr. Qaradawi's tape is also here on the table. If somebody is interested after the end of this lecture, they can pick it up. Salam alaikum.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. Tonight's guest is, as you all know, is Imam Abdullah Hakim Quick. He is the president of the Islamic Social Services and Resources Association in Canada. He graduated from the College of Usul al-Din, Ad-Da'wa and Usul al-Din from Saudi Arabia. Currently he's working on his PhD in Islamic Studies. He is an expert in the Islamic history, and I believe he's one of the best to speak us tonight about the best generation that was ever brought to us, the generation of the Sahaba, the generation of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, whom Sayyid Qutb rahimahullah says that they are a unique Quranic generation that will never be repeated as a generation. As individuals, they will be repeated, but as a whole generation, according to Sayyid Qutb, they will never be repeated. So I'll leave the floor to Imam Abdullah to tell us about that unique generation.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wal-aqibatu lil-muttaqeen. Wa-la udwana illa al-zalimin. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن دعا بدعوته واستنى بسنته إلى يوم الدين وسلم تسليما كثيرا. ما بعد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. It is again a privilege and an honor to be with you. And alhamdulillah, from the type of questions that have been asked today, I strongly feel that all of the brothers and sisters here today, inshallah, will be part of the change, the great change that is needed in the Muslim world. Because it is needed at this point in time for people to begin to probe through the surface issues into the core issues that are surrounding Muslims and that may stand as obstacles for the progress of Islam in the future. This is a very critical turning point for the Muslims in the world. We are the richest people individually on the face of the planet Earth. If you were to look at the top 10 richest men on earth, you'd probably find a number of them are Muslims. They say that number one, the richest man on earth, the Sultan of Brunei in Southeast Asia. At the same time, we can be described as the poorest people also on the face of the planet Earth. The per capita income in the United Arab Emirates is 120 times the income in Chad, which is a majority Muslim country. In some parts of the Muslim world, people are throwing food away. But in other parts, the people cannot get a decent meal even once every 3 or 4 days. We have great armies. We have missiles, we have tanks, we have generals, we have all the different armaments of war. But at the same time, Muslims in Bosnia, Herzegovina, in Palestine, in Somalia, many parts of the Muslim world have been subjected to brutal attacks. The Hindus in India, brutally attacking Muslims, raping Muslim women, destroying masjids. So on the one hand, we have great physical capability, but on the other hand, things are being done to us that you would never expect a nation that had this capability to be done to. We have intelligent people. Some of the greatest scientists in the world are Muslims. Some of the greatest philosophers, some of the greatest writers, some of the greatest athletes are Muslims. But at the same time, we find ourselves at this point in time feeling the pressure on us as though a mountain is on our shoulder. And for some people it looks very grim and very bleak. But we have to remember the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He has revealed to us in the Quran, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وَلْتَنْظُرْ نَفْسٌ مَا قَدَّمَتْ لِغَدٍ وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ إِنَّ اللَّهَ خَبِيرٌ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ وَلَا تَكُونُوا كَالَّذِينَ نَسُوا اللَّهَ فَأَنْسَاهُمْ أَنفُسَهُمْ أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْفَاسِقُونَ. Allah has told us in this surah, O you who believe, fear Allah and let every soul look to what it has put forward for tomorrow and fear Allah. Surely Allah is well acquainted with all that you do. And be not like those who forgot Allah, and so He made them forget themselves. Surely these are the disobedient ones. And so forgetting Allah, spending more time rubbing our hands on the graves, worshipping saints, afraid of the dark, afraid of the jinn, instead of standing up to the enemies of Allah. Scholars arguing over petty issues, making the great Imams of Islam appear to be against each other when all of the Imams took from the same source and they were brothers and they were colleagues and students and teachers of each other. And so the ayah comes in. لا تكونوا كالذين نسوا الله فأنساهم أنفسهم. We forgot Allah and He made us forget ourselves. And so with all the money, there is poverty. With all the military capability, there are people subjugated to humiliation and degradation. This is the coming forth and the confirmation of this verse. It applies directly to the situation we are in today. But alhamdulillah, in the last few years, we have seen great changes. We have seen many people striving to break the mental and psychological chains that have been put upon our nation, especially after the colonial period. And they remember Uswatun Hasana, that the Prophet Alayhi salatu wasalam was the best example. And I want to, without going into very detailed, flowery, philosophical arguments, I want to speak to you from the heart, directly, about the issues that we are facing. Because it is important for us today to begin to speak to each other, not intellectually, but from our hearts. Speak the truth, what is inside you. Bring it out openly, and bring it out with respect. The great movements of Islam have taken us to another stage. But at this point in time, the movements are in need of balance, to be balanced. And many of the movement leaders are understanding this. And I have great respect for all of the brothers and sisters involved in these movements, because it takes something special for a Muslim in these times to commit himself or herself to the higher cause. Some movements are involved in the study of Aqidah. And so they tell you, brother or sister, you have to correct your Aqidah. You must have the proper understanding of your faith. You must know exactly who is Allah. You must not commit shirk. And they focus on that, and it appears that most of their lectures, or 80% of what they are saying and doing, is surrounding this Aqidah. Other Muslim groups focus on Islah al-Muslimin. They go in the path and they go from masjid to masjid and they try to bring the light of Islam into the hearts of the Muslims. They start with the basic parts of Islam, trying to bring that spirit of Islam back in. But they focus their efforts mainly on that. And when you try to go into things about hadith or Quran or Islamic knowledge, they do not have the capability, or it is not part of the program to be dealing with that. Other groups focus upon tarbiyah, upon Islamic education, and upon khilafah, that there should be a political leader of the Muslim world. That we should form ourselves into tiny cells and we should educate ourselves and our children, and we should move toward Islamic State. Other Muslim groups are involved in jihad. And they feel that the only way for success is for jihad. That unless we are all in jihad or preparing or going into jihad, then we are not really doing the message of Islam. I appeal to myself and to the movement leaders today that the example of the Prophet Alayhi salatu wasalam and his companions included all of these things. It included the character, the love of Muslims, purification of the heart, the spiritual aspects of Islam. And then it moved into the knowledge area. It went out into the society, answered the social problems, eventually formed itself into a political entity, and eventually opened up much of the world, bringing down the dhalimeen, the oppressors, in the different kingdoms of the world. And so it is the best example. And we should take the time to reflect. While we are looking at the philosophical arguments and understanding, we should reflect upon the life of the Sahaba and directly upon the life of the Prophet ﷺ. This is why the study of CIII-MAYA, the prophetic biography, is a very important area of study that should be included, along with Quranic studies, with Hadith studies, the study of CIII-MAYA, the life of the Prophet, peace be upon him, should be included because it gives us a roadmap. It shows us how to implement the verses and ahadith. And Aisha radiallahu anha used to say, if you want to see the Quran walking and talking, then look at the Messenger of Allah, peace and blessings be upon him. And so today, we would like to briefly look at one of the Sahaba. And alhamdulillah, as you heard earlier, this was the best generation. Allah blessed them. He took them from a state of ignorance into a state of Islam. He took them from the point, in some cases, being oppressors, being drunkard, being murderers, changed their life into a state of Islam and made them models for the whole of humanity. One of these famous Sahaba, radiallahu anhum ajma'in, is Abu Ubaydah ibn al-Jarrah, radiallahu anhu. Abu Ubaydah gives us a very important example. Some very simple, seemingly simple messages that I believe would strike deeply into the core of the problem that Muslims are facing today. Abu Ubaydah radiallahu anh was described as being a tall man and very thin, and he was known to be extremely humble and extremely shy. He was kathir al-haya. He had modesty. He was one of the people who would not be looking you directly in the eye. He was a very modest and humble person, but he was described that when it came time to defend the word of Allah, they described him as a sword, as a striking sword, because of the powerful stance that he was taking. And so he combined the qualities of humility, tawadu', sincerity, ikhlas, and strength. Many times we go to one extreme or another, humble and weak, or strong and arrogant. But the real believer is one who, when you are in his presence or her presence, they are like your family. You can turn your back and you feel as though you could lay your head in their lap. But if it is time to face the enemies of Allah, you have a lion standing next to you. That is the quality of the true believer. Abu Ubaydah radiallahu anh was described by the Prophet ﷺ as Amin hadhihi al-ummah. Inna likulli ummah Amin, wa Amin hadhihi al-ummah Abu Ubaydah. He was described as the trustworthy, truthful person of this nation, the custodian, the one to whom you leave your trust. And how important is that for us today, that we can trust each other, that you would have somebody who you could give your wealth to, you could leave your children with, you could leave anything of value, and you will be sure that when you return, everything will be intact, or that person would have died defending you as though he is defending himself. And the Prophet ﷺ said on one occasion, 3 people of Quraysh, 3 people, they were the best in character. If they spoke to you, they would not deceive you. If they spoke to you, they would not tell you lies. And if you spoke to them, they would not accuse you of lying. Understand this quality now. If they spoke to you, they would not tell you a lie. And if you said something to them, they would not accuse you of being a liar. 3 people of Quraysh, Abu Bakr, Uthman ibn Affan, and Abu Ubaydah ibn al-Jarrah, radiyallahu anhum. Now Abu Ubaydah was one of the 10 Ashara Mubashirina bil Jannah, of the 10 people who were promised paradise before their death. He lived in the harsh Meccan period. He was one of the first people to accept Islam. He suffered when Quraysh attacked the Muslims. He had patience through the torture. He had patience when they were put into a valley. A boycott was put on them. He had patience in that time. And when the time came to make the hijrah, to make the migration to Medina, Abu Ubaydah radiallahu anh made the hijrah. The Muslims were attacked. In the Battle of Badr, very famous Battle of Badr, the first major confrontation in Medina, Abu Ubaydah radiallahu anh played a very serious role in pushing back Quraysh. Muslims were outnumbered 3-1. The cavalry of Quraysh was powerful. Muslims did not have hardly anything. Abu Ubaydah rahimahullah radiallahu anh was described, his action in the battle has left an impression upon Islam. It is described that Abu Ubaydah jumped into the thick of the battle. He went to the right side and he began to strike and to fight, and he found a man in front of him who attacked him. And this man continued on and faced him and wanted to kill him. And Abu Ubaydah radiallahu anh turned away from the man and went to the other side of the battle. The man followed him to the other side. And Abu Ubaydah radiallahu anh faced the man. The man came at him wanting to kill him, and Abu Ubaydah turned away and went to the middle. The man came to the middle of the battle, fought Abu Ubaydah, came in front of him, flashing his sword, and Abu Ubaydah turned and struck him with one blow and took his life. After the battle, Abu Ubaydah radiallahu anh seemed to be upset. And they asked him, who was that man? Who was it that was chasing you around and we saw you leave him? He said, it was my father. And so he was prepared to take the life of his father. And that is serious, because many of us do not have the loyalty to our families that they did in the time of the Jahiliyyah, of the Arabs in Jazirat al-Arab. But even though the blood was there, when the difference was Islam versus Kufr, Abu Ubaydah was ready even to take the life of somebody as important to him as his own father. How many of us feel it difficult even to correct somebody of our nation? How many of us feel difficult to oppose something cultural done by our nation or our tribe? But it is the example of the Sahaba. Break down nationalism, break down tribalism, and be prepared to sacrifice anything in the cause of Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in translation from Surah Al-Mujadilah, verse 22, revealed the ayah after this incident. You will not find the people believing in Allah on the last day, making friends with those who oppose Allah and His Messenger, even if these were their fathers, their sons, their brothers, or their clan. Allah has placed faith in their hearts and strengthened them with a spirit from Him. He will cause them to enter gardens beneath which streams flow, that they may dwell therein. Allah is well pleased with them, and they are well pleased with Him. They are the party of Allah. Is not the party of Allah the successful ones? And so Allah revealed this verse after the striving and struggling of Abu Ubaydah ibn al-Jarrah radiallahu anhu. During the experience in Medina, at one point near the end, Christian delegations, especially from Najran, Christian delegations came to Medina, and they wanted to be taught about Islam. Muhammad ibn Ja'far radiallahu anhu relates that one time one of these delegations came to the Prophet ﷺ, and they said they wanted to hear something about Islam. And so the Prophet said, you come back in the morning and I will send you somebody who is strong and trustworthy, and he can solve your problems. Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anh hoped that he would be the one who would be chosen. Many of the Sahaba hoped that they would be the ones. And when the morning came, the Prophet chose Abu Ubaydah ibn al-Jarrah radiallahu anh, and not only did he teach them, but he made qada. He made judgments for them in their own problems. And so he was flexible enough to deal with the people of the book. He was flexible enough to be able to help other people using Islamic situations, understanding their culture, and help them to solve their problems. And in the Battle of Uhud, Abu Ubaidah radiallahu anh made great sacrifices. It is reported that the Prophet ﷺ, after the Muslims had given up the position and the Quraysh had surrounded them, and the Prophet, peace be upon him, was knocked down into a ditch, even the plates of his armor into his face, and suffering. Abu Ubaidah was one of the people who shielded him with his body. It is reported that he received a number of serious blows, and he lost his own tooth, taking out the piece of the helmet from the cheek of the Prophet Alayhi salatu wasalam. And so he sacrificed his own body. He was prepared to make the supreme sacrifice of his own person for the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. The time of the death of the Prophet ﷺ, when they went to Saqifa, and it is reported, there are many different versions and riwayat concerning what happened on that day. One of these reports tells us when they went to this garden area in Medina, the Ansar and then the Muhajirin, and they were trying to decide upon who would be the new Khalifa, who would be the leader. One of the reports tells us that Umar ibn Khattab stretched his hand forth or turned to Abu Ubaidah and said, "Stretch forth your hand, I will swear allegiance to you." Because I heard the Prophet, peace be upon him, say, every ummah has an Amin, and you are the Amin of this ummah. Abu Ubaidah replied, "I would not put myself forward in the presence of a man whom the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, commanded to lead us in Salah, and who led us right until the Prophet's death. He gave his bay'ah, along with Umar, to Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, radiallahu anhu." And so Abu Ubaidah did not want political supremacy. He did not want to be the leader. He did not want to be the Khalifa. He had no desire inside of himself for leadership. How many times do Muslims, if they have authority, or if they have been praised, or they feel that they are on a high level, how many times do they fight for leadership? You have to hold him back from being the leader. And you turn around, he takes you over. But the true example of the Sahaba, no desire in themselves for political leadership. That is what we need today. That the person who becomes the leader looks upon leadership as mas'uliyah, as a responsibility, and not as a privilege. That he would be on a throne, in authority over everybody, until you force him out. But he sees it as a responsibility to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he became an advisor and a helper to Abu Bakr, to Umar, to Uthman. He became a helper to the Sahaba who took over the leadership. And it is reported that Abu Ubaidah radiallahu anh led the forces to Syria. And that when they were involved in this campaign, they were struck with a dreaded plague. The plague began to kill Muslims in large numbers. And Umar radiallahu anh, when he heard this, he sent a letter immediately to Abu Ubaidah and said, "If you receive this letter in the morning, leave and come back to Medina by the afternoon. If you receive it in the afternoon, then leave by Fajr. Abu Ubaydah wrote back to Umar, with all respect, I would not want to take myself away from something that is happening to the Muslims. I am one of them, and I do not want to separate myself from the other believers. When Umar received this, according to the books of Sirah and of Tariq, he began to cry because he felt that Abu Ubaidah was no more. Abu Ubaidah radiallahu anh became sick with the plague. And it is reported on his deathbed that he made a wasiyah, an advice to the Muslims, and this is important. Take this down into our minds, what he is saying to us. This is the direct application of Islam. I quote him in translation. Let me give you some advice which will cause you to be on the path of goodness always. Establish prayer. Fast in the month of Ramadan. Give sadaqah. Perform the Hajj and the Umrah. Remain united and support one another. Be sincere to your leaders and do not conceal anything from them. I'll say that again. Be sincere to your leaders. Do not conceal anything from them. Don't let the world destroy you. For even if a man were to live 1,000 years, he would still end up with the fate that you see myself in. Then he said, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, and he turned to Mu'adh ibn Jabal and he said, you perform the Salat with the people. At that point, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took his soul, and Mu'adh ibn Jabal radiallahu anh made the janazah for him. And Mu'adh was reported to have said, O people, you are stricken by the death of a man. By Allah, I don't know whether I have seen a man who had a more righteous heart, who was further from all evil, and who was always sincere to the people. Ask Allah to shower His mercy on him, and Allah will have mercy upon you. And then he led them in the Salah. And so Abu Ubaidah had these qualities that we should consider at this time. He was shy, humble, but when it came time to face the enemies of Allah, he was like a lion. He was trustworthy, amanah. You can trust him. How important is that trust for us today? No tribalism, no qawmiyah, qabaliyah, asabiyah. He was prepared even to sacrifice his family if they came in the path separating Islam from its success. Ready to sacrifice himself. And so we have to be prepared, if we want to follow his example, to make the supreme sacrifice. No political desire. Ready to be a follower or a leader. Whatever Allah wills. He puts the one who deserves leadership in front of him. And he's glad to be in back of him. Humility and equality. As a leader, he did not see himself as the Sharif, that he is better than anybody else. He saw himself as the same as the other believers. And that is the perfect example of the Prophet ﷺ. That is what he gave. Because even the Prophet, peace be upon him, it is described when they came to Medina and they looked at the circle, they had to ask, which one is Muhammad? I don't know which one is it. Same clothes, sitting like everybody else, not on a throne, not having people throwing flowers in front of him. Or when he goes from his house to the masjid, the police line the streets with their guns out, and then he makes a phony Salatul Jum'ah so everybody on TV can see him.
Not like the leadership we have today in the Muslim world, but a humble, simple person, even though he is one of the people promised Jannah before their death. Ready to support those who are in leadership and see in supporting them as being an asset to himself, as strengthening of the ummah. So Abu Ubaydah ibn al-Jarrah radiallahu anh gives us one of those important examples for us to look back at and to reflect on. These are the people who should be the heroes of our children. Not Rambo, not Superman, not Batman. These are the ones who should be our heroes. So we should try to read these stories to our children and inculcate this inside of them. And look ourselves to the practical application of Islam directly to the Prophet ﷺ and to the Sahaba. May Allah shower His blessings upon Abu Ubaydah ibn al-Jarrah. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shower His blessings upon all those who have fallen for Islam and all those who are waiting in the path of Allah. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين من كل ذنب استغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
On your behalf, I thank our brother Abdullah for such an enlightened narration of the life of one of our most beloved heroes, Abu Ubaydah ibn al-Jarrah. I would like to remind you of just a couple of things that he mentioned about Abu Ubaydah. That he was described with amana, trustworthiness, and we lack that. He was described with strength, and we lack that. He was described with sacrifice in the cause of Allah. We lack that. He was described with knowledge of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Prophet wanted from him, and we lack that. So this is the example that we should learn from. And inshallah we'll take your questions, whether written or verbal, and we will inshallah learn more of what we have to learn in order to reach a level closer to these examples than the level we are in now. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prepared this generation, the generation of Sahaba, at the hands of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so we as human beings, as weak human beings, would have a definite conviction that we are able to do it. If we put the effort that they did, and if we relate to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with the same sincerity that they did. Do we have any written questions so far? Anybody would like to ask a verbal question? If not, because I have a question of my own. I think the sisters have questions.
Let me stand.
You want to use these?
Sorry.
Can I use it? Assalamu alaikum, brother. One of the problems we have here is our sons and daughters go on reading novels and stories and books, which may not be the best thing to read for them. And it would be much more beneficial and inspiring and educational for them if they go and read these stories of all the Sahabas and all the great Muslims, of different generations, the early generations and the ones after that. Even for entertainment, sometimes because they like to read. Many girls and boys, they like to read, and they read so much. And it's a waste to go into reading all these useless, books they read. Are there a list of books in English which are available as stories of the prophets? The lives of the Sahaba and the prophets and some of the great Muslims which we would like them to take as their models and heroes?
Okay, well, first off, I think that the ISNA and ICNA both have very good book services, who have very detailed listings of books that are available. I can recommend one. I believe it is available in both of these book services. This is Companions of the Prophet by Abdul, Wahid, Hamid. This is, I believe, a 4 or 5 part series. And he... Yeah. Right. There are some written about Umar ibn Khattab, definitely. And again, if you check with the ISNA book services, I'm sure you will find a number of books. This one is good because he made a summary from Sifat to Safwa and a number of books like this, very authentic. It's authentic, and he's taking from authentic sources when he put this together.
Yeah, I didn't mean this for me only, but to make that available for all the
Sure.
If I may, there is a book that was originally in Arabic, and it's in a story form about the Sahaba. It's called Rijal Hawla Rasul by Khalid Muhammad Khalid. The author is not an Islamist in the sense, but the stories about the Sahaba are excellent, and I believe it's translated into English if you ask about it in those bookstores. The excellent stories, and they were written in a novel form, story form. For the kids, they're excellent.
Okay, is there a question over this side?
I heard about this, but I wanted to hear about more Sahaba. Ridwan Allah Ajma'in. So, if you can elaborate a little bit about some of the other Sahabi, because you just mentioned one mostly here.
Well, you know, there is so much to talk about. We could be here for 2 months.
Yeah.
You know, this is just a taste. Like this session was made as an inspiration and a taste to take it further. So I think that, you know, I mean, that's why it's better to focus on one, so you get a complete, you know, story of that person. And then, because there's a lot of questions that people have, but Jazakallah khair, I think it's a good point for conference organizers to put inside of the program more of the stories of the Sahaba, and even in the masjids. If anybody is involved in the masjids and the khutbahs, you know, to have more of these stories to be said. But tonight we focus on one, so we go home and we know about one in a very strong way, not to water it down.
Yeah, actually, I wanted to ask about the same question as sister asked.
Yeah.
If we have any books available for the other Sahaba, or just one book for the Sahaba, you know.
Like you heard, there's a number of books. I believe in the bazaar, the different booksellers are there. They have a lot of books. Just ask them. They'll have Umar, you know, Umar ibn Khattab, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. You can find a lot of them over there. Inshallah, at the book.
I think I suggest that we take a written and then a verbal,
Okay.
and so through experience I have seen many Muslim parents leave caring for their kids or children to further educate themselves on Islam. That means neglecting their kids. What is your opinion on this?
Well, it is part of the sunnah that you educate yourself and at the same time deal with your family. It defeats the purpose if the parents are educating themselves and not dealing with their children, because who's going to take over after them? So it is important that the knowledge filters down. So all of the masjids, community centers, even families should have some form of Islamic education that the younger people are constantly involved in. And this, I believe, as this change is happening here, that it has become more and more a very important part. And I hope, inshallah, that we will see the day when this is one of the most important issues in our whole community. Yeah.
Yes, sister.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
I wanted to know if you can give examples of women that, among the Sahaba, that were active in the community and making dawah, and that interacted with men under Islamic guidelines.
Well, I mean, if you go right from the source, I mean, Khadija, radiallahu anha, right from the Meccan period, Aisha, Fatima, Hafsa, you know, there are so many of those names. I'm sure you're familiar with a lot of these names. Zainab, Salama. These are very important women. I'm sure you can find a lot of them. If you'd like to get some names, some of them are in here. I can give you even some other names that are not normally mentioned. Asma bint Abu Bakr, his daughter Asma, also a very important person in the Islamic movement.
I'll take another written, then I'll move to the verbal. Can you please comment or suggest how Muslims should behave today towards leaders of their countries when these leaders are not acting or behaving or ruling according to Islam? Thank you.
Okay, this is a highly political question brothers are asking, and I don't claim to be the best scholar in the political aspects of Islam, but I think that we have to have a great wisdom today. We have to use hikmah, putting things in the proper perspective. And I know with the youth and many of the groups there's a great enthusiasm, but I can remember in my own personal development and watching different movements in the Muslim world, there is a Marxist-Leninist concept, which is you have an overthrow of the government. You make a coup d'etat. You take the airport, you capture the president or kill him, you take over the radio station, and you think that you're going to rule this country under an Islamic state. It's not going to happen like that. The Islamic movement, there was Mecca before Medina. And many people want to go to Medina before they deal with Mecca. And so we need to, I think you'll find Sayyid Qutb and Abu A'la, Al-Mawdudi, and many people speaking of the fact that there is a need for tarbiyah, for education, for the masses of the people to be educated in Islam, to spread the knowledge of Islam. Once the masses have a basic understanding of Islam, then when the time comes, then they know what you're doing. Otherwise, you get caught. You take over the radio station and everybody's against you. They say this is a mad fanatic, and then CNN says the fundamentalists have just taken over this country and you're isolated. So the Islamic way is Mecca before Medina. The character, the sincerity, the ikhlas, the purity on the inside. Inna Allah la yughayyiru ma biqawmin hatta yughayyiru ma bi anfusihim. Allah will not change the condition of a people until they change that which is in themselves. And so Allah is not going to give us revolutions until we make a revolution inside. And I don't mean by staying in a masjid and making dhikr in a circle all day. I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about is the basic sincerity, the ikhlas, the bad habits, bad concepts, bad practices, that we should work on this, spread the Islamic education, and then wait for the proper time with hikmah, with wisdom, when the other aspects would come in. But to try to make a coup d'etat, or to use the masses, push the masses out, let them get killed, and then take over, that is a Marxist-Leninist theory. That has nothing to do with Islam.
Yes, brother.
السلام عليكم.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله.
يسلمي سيادة الشيخ. بدي أتكلم عن الإسلام. الإسلام تبعنا نور. الإسلام تبعنا أبيض. ولكن مع الأسف الشديد حكام أسلامنا وعلماء أسلامنا، العلماء تبعينا اللي بيرشدون على الإسلام ما بيحكوا الحق. بيعملوا الدين كبيضة أموات بيزينوها مثل الكرمة اللي وراك. كل عالم بيحكي زي الأمير تبعه. كل عالم من علماء الإسلام بيحكي اللي بده الحاكم. حكام إسلامنا لازم يتقاصصوا على الإشي هذا. إحنا إسلامنا إذا بنمشي فيه إحنا بس في العالم كله. الإسلام بعده ما فيه. الإسلام معطي حق لليهودي، معطي حق للنصراني، معطي حق لكل شعوب العالم بالإسلام تبعنا في الكرم تبعه. ولكن أنا متأسف على اللي بيصير في مصر، بيصير بالجزائر بإسلامنا. بتأسف على العراق اللي صلها 3 سنوات وإسلامنا ساكتين عنها. البوسنة والهرسك طلعوا إسلام جداد ما سمعناهاش، لازم نسندهم. إسلامنا أقوياء، إسلامنا هم العالم. ليش إحنا بنتغاضى عن الشهاب؟ يعني حكام الإسلام بترجاك يا سيدي الشيخ ويا سيدي العالم والمنطق تبعك إنه إحنا يا الإسلام لازم نحاكم حكامنا اللي بيذبحوا في الإسلام، اللي بيقول أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمد رسول الله، بيذبحوه في مصر والجزائر يا سيدي. اتقوا الله. فهد الله أكبر والعزة لله في مصر يا سيدي. في السعودية مال الإسلام، بترول الإسلام في السعودية والخليج يشبع العالم العربي والإسلامي في العالم. ما نحتاج نجي لأمريكا أو نجي لهون وهون. ليش حكام السعودية يتحكمون في مالنا، في مال إسلامنا؟ الخليج ليش؟ على أساس بدنا نحكي ما نخافش، لا نخاف لا من سعودي لا من فهد لا من مبارك ولا الأسد ولا غيره ولا غيره. تركيا أم الإسلام بتضرب في إسلامنا من قواعد تركيا. أمريكا بتيجي من تكساس، أمريكا بتيجي من كاليفورنيا تضرب الإسلام، لا بتضربها من قواعد الإسلام، تضربها من تركيا، تضربها من السعودية، تضربها من الخليج، هي أرض الإسلام. ولكن مع الأسف الشديد بطلب من الله عز وجل أن يلهمنا في عمر وعلي وأبو بكر وخالد ابن الوليد وصلاح الدين الأيوبي اللي كردي والكراد بتذبحوا أم إسلام، هذا حرام. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله. العزة لله، العزة لله والنصر للإسلام، العزة لله. الخزي والعار على حكام العرب وحكام الإسلام اللي بصير في هيك في البوسنة والهرسك وبالعراق ومصر والجزائر. السلام عليكم.
For those of you who aren't familiar with Arabic, نعم إن شاء الله نترجم هذا لك إن شاء الله لا يفتح عليك. Those of you who are not familiar with Arabic, the brother made a very emotional statement concerning the condition of the Muslim world. That Islam is being attacked from within. And that one of the great problems is the fact of the hukam, or the leadership in the Muslim world, and also the ulama. And this, that we know that you have the umara and the ulama. If you have leaders that are terrible and are oppressors, and that is one of the signs of Qiyamah, that the worst amongst us would be our leaders. If you have terrible leaders and good scholars, the leaders will try to crush the scholars. If your scholars are not strong enough to correct the leadership, then you also got a problem. So the political leadership and the educational leadership, spiritual leadership is supposed to be one. It's supposed to be one leadership and not divided in sections and not one fighting against the other. What we are facing now in just about all of the Muslim countries is something which is more of a colonial, neo-colonial setup, where the powers, the non-Muslim powers left our countries and they put people in who look like us, who speak like us, but they rule with kufr. This is what is on us. And this is bala. This is a test which is on us, and it is part of the tamhis, the purification that we're going through, that we have this tawaghit who are in the leadership. And so I can definitely sympathize and emphasize what the brother is saying, that one of the great problems is the leadership. And we do pray, inshallah, that the day would come when this leadership would come forward who can take us out of this situation. But I believe strongly that the education of Muslims, that the average common Muslims, you and I, the people on the streets, have to understand what Islam is about. You can no longer depend upon the Maulana or the Sheikh or the Mufti to give you everything about Islam. We need to have specialized people, no doubt. And alhamdulillah, we need to have more people to go to Islamic institutions. But all of the Muslims now should be studying what Islam is, so that when your leader goes astray, you correct him. And as Abu Ubaydah said, don't conceal anything from your leaders. Be sincere to them. Don't conceal anything. How do you do it? You do it with respect. But you correct them. Don't let them to lead you astray. That is the situation that we are in, and may Allah take us out of this. You have a written question?
I have a question about family. I've been Muslim only for 5 years, and in that 5 years there's been a lot of changes obviously with my family. They're Christian and Catholic mainly, and they practice what they believe. And maybe about 2 years ago I stopped going to Easter and Christmas and all those things because they have alcohol. Well, for other reasons too, but especially because they have alcohol, and let my family know I would only visit them on other occasions. And for a while that was okay with them. Although I found out recently they used to drink when we were there, but they would go in the other room and I wasn't aware of it. Now in the last 2 months, my parents, especially my father, have said that if they want alcohol when I'm there, they're going to have it. They're not alcoholics, but they drink socially and they drink when they want to. If my grandma comes over, she has a beer, whatever it is. And I don't know what to do about it. I know I can invite them to my house, but they're an hour away and they're getting older, especially like for my grandparents.
Yeah.
I don't know what's the balance of, I know I have obligations to my family, but I also know that I can't sit in the presence of people drinking, and I would like some advice. And if I brought any shame to my family for talking in public about it, Allah forgive me.
Well, you know, what you are facing is something which is not strange to yourself, because the whole society is built upon the alcoholic and drug pleasure. That when you are relaxing, they relax themselves with these intoxicants and things like this. And it is very important for you to take a stand. But the stand that you take, or that we take, should be one that is done with love. You still show respect. Show them respect. But you show them clearly that you do not believe in this. And you can also bring arguments to them and show them how alcohol has become a great killer of people. How many people have cirrhosis of the liver? They're dying on the streets. They're dying of all kinds of problems. Everybody knows what drugs is doing to the society. In pork, eating pork, what pork does to the body. There are a number of works written where you could actually get good arguments for them to show them that even for health reasons, that they shouldn't be taking these things. So, alhamdulillah, may Allah make you stronger to keep this strong stance you are taking, keep your example, and try to be around them at the times, you know, when they don't have the alcohol, and keep your stance very clear, with total respect and balance. We have to be balanced. Like if somebody pulls the beer out, you can't go running out the house. I mean, like it's got to be balanced. But it has to be done in a way, you have to use the wisdom of each particular situation, the hikmah.
Okay, I mean, I guess that's my question. I mean, that before it was easy, I knew ahead of time when there would be alcohol and I didn't go.
Yeah.
And because we live an hour away, especially in the winter, if they break out the alcohol,
Yeah.
there may be a snowstorm and I can't leave. And so right now my husband and I are like, well, we feel that we shouldn't go there, but at the same time, it's definitely making the family grow very far apart. And I mean, what's the right thing? If they break open a beer, like especially if it's my grandma, she'll probably have one the whole day. Do we stay? Is that allowable? It certainly for me isn't desirable, but I don't want to be the one that's pushed my family away and have that sin upon me. Or is it them? I mean, it's the position now, they're going to do it whether we like it or not, and they're going to do it in front of us. And what do I do? Can I go home?
Well, you know, it is not right. It's not right to be sharing the table with people who are drinking alcohol. So, I mean, this is an Islamic, etiquette to leave the situation. And I think they're really tested. They're tested. And because of the negative propaganda against Muslims, so maybe they have a negative image now, and so they're nafs, the evil side is coming out to test you. But, if you show love and sincerity, and you are consistent, your message is consistent, you take, don't back off your stand. Be consistent with your stand. But do it with love. You tell them very clearly, if you stop drinking, I cannot stay. It's against my religion, against my way of life. I respect you very much, but I can't. And inshallah, one day, their hearts will be opened by Allah, inshallah. They will be able to see what you are doing. But you shouldn't go back on the standard that you're taking because they're testing you because of probably the negative image that the media is producing about that.
Just a little bit. If you couldn't leave because of a storm or something, you could always make the stand that he's talking about by going to a different room. And you make the same message if it is very difficult to leave the house.
Right.
I'll take a written question. Even though this question is not related to our subject, it's a fiqh question. But I feel that some of the probably brothers or sisters find it very urgent to get the opinion of our scholar. He or she is asking about the etiquette of using the bathroom. Can we mention the name of Allah or say Salam? And we make the ghusl inside the bathroom, and we have to, she says that there is dua with the wudu and the ghusl inside the bathroom. How do we reconcile that? Is it okay to talk to others? And do the angels enter the bathroom to record our deeds and all of that?
I think, for this question, inshallah, I would reserve a few moments afterwards for that person. And then I could give you those, lessons, because they are very basic things. They're very important. And I think it would be better in terms of the adab of the jama'ah that we have, men and women. That I could do that, I think, privately. I will reserve a few moments for that person, inshallah.
Jazakallah khair. Then we'll take the question.
Assalamu alaikum. My question deals with what you alluded to in the initial part of your lecture in terms of the various movements in Islam today. Do you recommend getting involved in all of these movements? And where can we get the proper education, which would not emphasize maybe one more than the other, or maybe one disproportionate to what we maybe should be striving for?
Well, I think that we should, movement is a very important thing. And I think that there's nothing wrong, especially if it's in your locality, if there's a particular movement, to be involved with a movement. But the only problem I have is when the movement becomes all-inclusive. When they start looking at ourselves that we are doing the work of the Sahaba. We are the true Muslims. Everybody else are hypocrites. They're all fusaq. They're all disobedient people. That's the problem. So there's nothing wrong with the movement. But the borders of the person should be wide enough to benefit from other people who are involved in other movements, because we're all Muslims. And we're all taking from the same sources. So really, I think flexibility, it's good to be flexible to benefit from all of the different groups, but there's nothing wrong with taking a pledge of allegiance to a leader or to a movement. There's nothing wrong with this. Just try to be sure that they are following Quran and Sunnah, and that they are sincere leadership. And if you get that sincerity, then you can pledge yourself or take a commitment to a movement. There's nothing wrong with this. Okay? And in terms of knowledge, the scholars of the past traveled to different places for knowledge. So you don't have to be restricted to one area of the world or to one particular school to be studying knowledge, but you can travel to different places. Unfortunately, many of the Islamic universities in the Muslim world are under attack. And so the governments are actually watering down the programs and chasing away the good scholars. And so you'll find that you may have to spend some time outside the universities. And brothers like Sheikh Hamza, Yusuf, spent many years in the desert in Mauritania, studying with shuyukh. And he told me that a lot of people don't realize, but there are shuyukh in the desert of Algeria and Morocco and Libya, in Mali, in Niger, and a number of places in the Sahara. And they are there teaching solid Islamic knowledge. So there's a number of places in the Muslim world where you can get solid knowledge outside of the university walls. And probably today, if you have knowledgeable people, you probably get more authentic knowledge outside the universities, than you get inside. Because the governments are waging a type of war against the universities. So I would suggest that we could talk a little bit more about this, but don't be restricted to one particular area of the world.
I'll take a written question here. The brother here is saying that he comes from a city in the United States where there are Muslim Arabs who own stores that sell alcohol and pork and the haram things. What should be done about Muslims who are poisoning out communities?
Well, this is a very bad example. And you probably all know the hadith that if you see munkar, you should change it with your hands. If you can't do that, then you should say something. If you can't do that, you should feel it in your heart. That is the lowest form of faith. So if you can change it with your hands, I don't necessarily mean you go beat him up and throw out, mess up his store, but you go directly in the store, confront him, and say, brother, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing this? Show him what Islam is. Let other Muslims in the city know about what he's doing. Even, start even with soft. Give him some dawah. Maybe he'll change. Otherwise, say something, or at least feel it in your heart. Each situation is different. In some parts of America, in New York and Chicago and some places, they went right to the stores and confronted them. They told them, stop selling pork. Okay, but that's the Brooklyn solution. You understand? Everybody may not be able to deal with that one. That's one of the solutions, to go straight up front and confront him and stop him from doing it with your hands. Okay? But each situation will require hikmah and knowing which level of amr bil ma'ruf wa nahy al munkar that you should make.
We'll take the young man's question. Go ahead, please.
Wa alaikum
salam.
Barakallah feek.
Actually, I have two short questions. The first one is, where did Abu Ubaydah radiallahu anhu die? Passed away in Mecca or Medina?
He died in Syria. Asham before was like all the area up north. What is present day Philistine, Syria, that area was called Bilad al-Sham. So it was up in that area there in Syria.
It's called Amwas.
Right, Amwas, okay, Jazakallah khair. So it's Amwas in the present Syria?
It's in present Palestine, northern part of Palestine.
It's in northern Palestine. That was all called Syria before. That's why I said Syria.
And the second question is, who are the 10 companions which were guaranteed to enter Jannah before they passed away?
Right, good question. Okay, you have to think about that one.
I have to think about myself too.
Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, Ali, Ubaydah ibn al-Jarrah, knew that one. Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, Talha ibn Ubaydillah, Sa'd ibn Mu'adh, Naam, Az-Zubair ibn al-Awwam,
Sa'id ibn Amr.
Right, Sa'id ibn Amir. Right?
And there's a 10th one.
And Abdurrahman ibn Auf. Abdurrahman ibn Auf. That's the 10. Okay? Alhamdulillah. That's what cooperation does. We're able to solve the problems.
Collective knowledge.
Right. Alhamdulillah.
Do we have
any more questions here?
From the sisters.
I have a question about Aisha radiallahu anha. I was reading a book, it's called The Blessed Women of Islam, and I was afraid to go on because to me it went against the principles of marriage in Islam that I understand. And there it relates that her mom is the one who gave the acceptance of her marriage to the Prophet, that Aisha's mother accepted her proposal. And I was afraid to read any more in the book because I didn't know enough about the other sahabiyats to learn something incorrectly.
Okay, I'm not exactly sure of the details, but my understanding is that it was Abu Bakr. Really, that.
The way I learned it, even when I was a little kid, we always heard these stories. That it was Abu Bakr and the Prophet ﷺ who agreed on the marriage, and Abu Bakr sent his wife to ask the girl, as was the customary practice. And the mother went and asked the girl, and the girl does not reply. And the Prophet ﷺ said, when a virgin girl does not reply, that means a yes. But one who is not virgin has to say yes or no. So when Aisha did not reply, her mother came to Abu Bakr and told him that the girl accepts. It was not the mother who accepted, it was the girl.
Yeah, what's that?
لا أخي هي الحديث specifies الثيب أو البكر. الثيب, that means one who has been previously married. Al-Bikr is a virgin one. The hadith is very clear on this one.
Okay, I think we're finished now.
Are we done?
Those who want the tape about that particular tape, I have a copy. The same thing I said is available.
Okay, the Sheikh is telling me that the tape about Abu Ubaydah, he has given a khutbah about the same subject. It's available in the back. There is other tapes that are available here. You are welcome to buy them. The sister has a question. We'll take a last question, and after this, we will end this session, inshallah. Do we have 2 questions? We'll take both of them. Go ahead, sister.
Assalamu alaikum. I would just like to know how you got involved in an Islamic university, and just talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, well, alhamdulillah, I'm originally from Boston, Massachusetts, and I left America in the Vietnam War as a war resistant. I went to Canada, and there, alhamdulillah, I accepted Islam, and was involved in the community. And I felt within myself that I wanted to know what Islam was from the source, because I was hearing all kinds of versions of Islam. And it seemed like people were teaching me more their culture than they were Islam. So I wanted to learn from the sources. And I was fortunate to get a scholarship going out of Canada to Medina. They had 2 scholarships, 2 Canadians they took. So I was one of the first 2 that went. Abu Amina Bilal Phillips was the other one. And he and I went to Medina. And alhamdulillah, we finished there. In 6 years, we went straight through. 2 years in language, we learned Arabic there. And then we went straight to Kulliyat al-Da'wa wa Usul al-Din. And we finished. In the 6 years, I went to Riyadh for a year, and then I came back. I've been working. Alhamdulillah.
Yes.
Shalom Alaikum. My father and mother are Muslim from Nigerian. I am American born. What I would like to know, what do you do with a mother who dishonors the father, that takes away her children when the father loved them as his own? Is there a custom that the Islamic culture go by?
If the mother takes away the children?
Takes away her children's children. She dishonors her grandchildren, and her children, she wants them to be poor for business. She dishonors her husband's wishes. What is done with a woman like that?
Well, this is a very specific question. I think I can talk to you afterwards, inshallah, for a couple of minutes. Because it's a very touchy type of question which needs a little bit more background to explain. So let me talk to you, inshallah. And as I said before, if I have said anything to offend anybody, I ask Allah to forgive me, and I beg your pardon. And if I have said anything which is of benefit, and that is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Subhanaka Allahumma bihamdika, nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.
On your behalf, we thank our Imam and brother Abdullah Hakim, and I hope that you would remember the sessions that are going to be going on in this part of the convention, and we'll see you later inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
السيشن يكون الآن يعني يطول على؟
نعم.
إلى متى؟
هو ماشي الاجتماع الآن الحمد لله.
نعم. ممكن أروح أنا.
والله يسأل أخونا.
عليكم السلام ورحمة الله.
Imam, will you be discussing?
السلام عليكم.
Oh, okay. I'll be doing it here with the person.
Okay, I understand. He will answer.
Yes.
I want to have, I just put a note about what is our movement right now doing toward the Islamic world beyond, not even Arabic words.
Yeah.
Change. See, I feel about 75% of our Quran talk about the Jews, the children.
That's right.
What we're trying to do right now, after I was reading in Reader's Digest, let's change the name of the Medina.
I don't know. Amjad, do we have another session tonight after this?
Education system
At night,
in Egypt.
Hamza Yusuf? We are going to have Brother Hamza Yusuf at 9 o'clock, right over here. Okay, he's going to have the second part of his previous lecture. Don't forget that, please.
That's right. After been moving along and winning.
Sure.
Should I go? What type of program could I get into?
You want me to get the written
Arabic, that's what I really want.
Yeah. Best place is in the Muslim world. I mean, the Sudan has got some problems. I mean, they have some pretty good courses in Sudan. Medina is not bad still, but it's rough. It's rough. Psychologically, the Saudis are really hard to stay there. But it's still okay. You can still learn.
I mean, do you have to get like a scholarship or program?
Yeah, you have to go through the embassy and then you apply to the educational mission.
Even after like I get like a college degree and so forth.
Well, they want people younger, like they want people in their 20s. So,
I'm in my 20s, but I'm still like in college.
You better hurry up, man. Check them out.
Well, I think his question kind of covers my mind. Where can we go in America to seek out, or how can we encourage? Who do we encourage to promote Islamic institutes here in America? I mean, because they're few and they're far between, and there's one Shiite organization that gives some very good information. Okay, but that's only one.
Right.
You know, how do we encourage the proliferation of Islamic studies here in North America?
Well, this is something which is needs to be done from all the minbars and the khutbahs and the masjids and whatnot. In Philadelphia, there's some brothers in Philadelphia. Sheikh Anwar Muhammad. He's a graduate of Medina and he's an excellent teacher and he has a school. So his movement is growing in Philadelphia. So that's a good place to go.
So I would need to move to Philadelphia.
Yeah, at least check it out and see what it's like there. You know, that's one place.
Okay.
In California, in Los Angeles, there's some brothers in Masjid movement. That's also pretty good. There's a few places around.
There's also studying bar correspondence through the Islamic Teaching Center,
right?
I think.
Islamic Teaching Center.
Through Islam.
That's right. That's in Fairfax, Virginia, right?
No, this is in
Plainfield, Indiana.
Plainfield, Indiana, okay.
And then in Fairfax, there's also something too. Saudis have something there. At least you can learn Arabic and the basic things.
Okay.
That's what you need to get Arabic. It's important.
It's definitely important. We have some very good brothers here in America. At the masjid I go to and in our community, where Allah has blessed with the ability to understand and teach it, you know. Right. And I would agree with you that before you do anything else, get a firm basis of Arabic. I would agree with you.
That's right.
But we have brothers here. I don't know, a couple weeks ago, there was a group of us that came to you.
Right, up in front.
Right. Okay. You know, we're part of that group. We're thirsty for knowledge. You know, and we're frustrated because we don't know where to go. I mean, there isn't anything here in the city that we can go to, and we would have to go other places. And so
Let me suggest something that we do in Kansas City. We don't have anybody who is awfully qualified to teach us. What we do is every month we arrange for sessions and we invite brothers like Hakim here to come and give us, like for 2 days on Sirah, for example. Somebody else, 2 days on Tafsir. Bring the people in if you can't go to church.
Yeah.
And that way everybody benefits. And with time you'll notice the difference in your amount of knowledge.
That's a good idea.
The sisters there to wait.
Sure.
To answer some of their questions.
Nice question, man.
Very good question. I'm impressed.
Excuse me, I have a small question. Do you know of any lectures on history, on Islamic history?
There are plenty. In the Hamid Ghazali tapes, the one who sells these, he has plenty of them. I'll talk to him. Talk to this guy who's making these things. He knows about it. I think this is the...
Given my father's wishes, she has started with me first. I want to know what is your Islamic cultural rules for a woman like that?
Well, this is not you have to refer that's one person.
Are you from Detroit?
I'm born here, yes.
In Detroit.
But my family is not from here.
Okay. But you're in this area? This brother was making the paper?
There's a session on now.
Yes, there is one going on. I'm not sure till what time, but it started around 6.
For the brothers, it's 8.
Over there?
I don't know where, but for the brothers, I don't know.
Till 8?
Yeah.
Okay, then I was still full.
That's what they told us. They could be informed too.
I know. Yeah, let me.
I have the question about that.